With so many great options already for some of the combiners of the 20-inch scale, we're talking the Zeta, we're talking the Toy World scale here. What's left? What combiners are left to get made? Today I want to talk about specifically the 20-inch-ish scale of combiners, what still needs to get made, what available options are out there, and what are we going to see in the future, hopefully, coming up. So happy Friday, everybody. Hope everyone's having a great weekend. I want to talk about these combiners here and why is it such a big deal? Why is there so much discussion about combiners? Well, it's because these can be $600 to $1,000 once completed on these combiners. So it's quite a hefty investment. When you're making that big of an investment, you need to talk about it and you need to make some decisions and think about this really hard. But starting with the Toy World Constructor, and I guess you could also say with Zeta and their options, we have more or less the new scale and the parts forming and all that's going along with it to make this 20-inch scale combiner. They look a bit more scale in the Masterpiece and they look great. Toy World Constructor actually is an excellent version of Devastator. Now, it's not the best that could ever get made. Now, there's a possibility that Takara can make one better. It's a possibility that Fans Toys can make one better, which we haven't seen Fans Toys make one. We're going to get into that just yet. And we could see other companies make a better one, but they've been doing this for so long. Maybe they've refined the mold just a bit, but it's still the best one on the market aesthetically. It never really was supposed to be super hyper-tuned, so another company could come along and make one super hyper-tuned, and it would look better. And I bet you that's what Takara would do, more or less. But Takara, they haven't made a combiner yet, and the only combiner that they're talking about making is going to be chug scale, so that may never be an option. As for Zeta, they have a great Superion. I actually love their Superion in combined mode. Do not like the bots individually, and the alt modes are okay. But it does kind of, everything feels cheap about Zeta until you combine it, then it feels like a pretty solid piece. And options with being able to remove the wings on the front arms, on the forearms, is excellent also. That's great. Now, as for their Brutacus, now I think it's a good Brutacus. But I even bought mine secondhand because somebody was disappointed in it. It wasn't as good as they thought it would be. I think it's a little bit too beefy, more or less overall. But it's a big, giant, beefy Brutacus. It looks good in the back section of my display, and it works really well intermingling with these other 20-inch figures. So it's good. They also made it with a couple of different color options and stuff, and I'm sure Zeta's going to put another one out eventually. Now, would another company come along and make this better? Well, we have seen MMC make theirs, but it's a lot smaller, so it won't fit in this scale. We currently have two options for Minosaur that you could get right now, more or less. And on the left is the X-Transbots. On the right, we have the DX9, and DX9 is just a tad slight bigger than the X-Transbot. They both look good. They both look great on the shelf. X-Transbots feels like it has a bit more of a premium finish, but the DX9 is way simpler to transform and to operate and to handle. So it's kind of what do you want in them. But right now there's two options, and we're waiting on a third, possibly a fourth, but we're not even going to talk about the fourth one. So what's the future hold for Fans Toys? Hopefully by the end of the year we get to finish their first combiner. We don't even know what it's going to look like. There's not even a prototype picture floating around. There's Digibashes. There's several different Digibashes. We don't even know if the Digibashes are going to match the coloring in the end, but it's still kind of interesting. It's kind of fun to look at. Now, by the end of the year, we should see this figure come out with combining parts. Now, the problem is, when you look at this, you see that we've got the cars for the legs. So what are these? Just going to be actual giant legs that connect? So there's still so many questions to this and how it's going to work and how it's going to connect. There was some rumor about there being a second trailer, and I just don't believe that rumor whatsoever. It doesn't make sense. I can't see that they would engineer another trailer. That doesn't make sense. Why would they have gone through the trouble of making the trailer on the Motormaster if they're going to make a second trailer for this? It would just be parts. I would think you're going to get a skeleton, an Endo-Exo-skeleton, and plug all your figures in. That's what makes sense to me. It feels like it would be right. So with their Superion, we're hearing there probably won't be another Superion release, another figure released for this set by the end of this year. So probably 2022 till we see another figure come out. But I would think there would be substantially less parts forming, so less pieces needed to make this. And that's why each one of these individual figures costs about $15 more, 10, 15, depending on where you're buying it, than the Minosaur figures and the Minosaur parts aside from the leader. Now, this does look pretty good in this Digibash mock-up here, and it may still, at the end of the day, be a better looking figure than what Zeta's already made. And that's what everybody's banking on. For me personally, I'm not in a huge rush to finish it because I have a Zeta one. But not everybody's in that same situation. A lot of people have put all their money into this, maybe even 3 of each, so they can have 1 in each mode, which would be an alt, bot, and combined. So, looking at it, they're really waiting to get this finished, and they've got giant gaps in their display and their shelves because they put all their money into this and not wanting to sell off a Zeta later. So I understand that. But I'm hearing it's not going to be till 2022. I think less parts forming with this than there'd be with the Minosaur. But hey, that's all still coming in the future. So now we're getting into a defense store. We have X-Transbots, and they've come out with 1 figure's been released. 1 figure is up for pre-order. They've got the Hot Shot up for pre-order. So you got the leader up for pre-order. But again, people have really analyzed all the pictures that have been put out, and they're trying to say, and I'm starting to agree with them. I might be wrong, but I'm starting to agree with them. But they're trying to say that the trailer, which would be all the combined parts, is not included, and we're going to have another fiasco like we had with the Minosaur. So if you just budget this and you plan this, so let's say it's $100 a limb, $400, and $150 for the Hot Shot. So you're looking at $550, and then another $200 for a trailer. That's $750. So are you in on this? I mean, it kind of is okay if you're breaking it up over the course of a year and a half, so it's not as bad, but it's still kind of frustrating. We'd like to know a number up front. And then with these big numbers that we're throwing around for money, it really helps knowing in advance. A lot of people are excited about the MMC because it's all in one, but MMC is, again, not going to be big enough. They look fine. They look great. Both of the MMC options that are out there look good, but they're not going to be big enough. Now, I've gotten some feedback in the comments that the Brutacus from MMC was a little unstable. I don't know. I haven't handled it. All I handled was one. I handled a swindle just to kind of see what it was like. I want to get a taste of it, but it's not the scale I want. I might go and just get individual bots, but it's not the scale, and I'm in on the bigger scale. And before we get into sort of future wants, hopes, wishes, and speculation, we're still talking about what's grounded in fact and grounded in reality that we know is coming. We know it's on its way, more or less. Now, this is Raiden, and this is Zeta, or it is now the Moon Studio. Now, there's still some question, is it really Zeta just changing the name? Did Zeta sell off their design, and another company is just starting up, and would this other company make something after this, or what's all going on with this? So, still, I'm just going to throw in that it's Zeta, and we all know that. Now, looking at this, it looks pretty good, but the problem is that the vast majority of collectors out there trying to get G1 combiners together might not be interested in this. This is 6 different purchases of $100 a figure. That's a $600 figure. So combined, it's $600. Expensive. This stuff is getting expensive. Maybe that's a good deal now. Maybe a few years from now, this thing won't be found for less than $1,000. So that's also a possibility out there. So if you're kind of on the fence and you're leaning one side or the other, you might want to jump in on it. So next we have Predicate. Now, this is a kind of a situation that is, now we're getting into some speculation and hopes and wants and wishes. So with Predicate, there was a Zeta picture, and a lot of people really liked the Zeta look, the Zeta aesthetic, wanted to go with the Zeta, but Zeta never made theirs. Instead, we started hearing about a Kang Toys version. Now, I had a picture that was like a digital render of Kang Toys, and I don't know what I did with it, and I actually cannot locate a Kang Toys one. So I'm just going to throw up one of their figures on the screen so you can kind of see the stylization that they go with. It's going to have this sort of style, sort of a lot more rounded edges than you'll see than sharp edges or squared off legs and squared off arms like you see with the original. I do think Kang's Toys, they're going to finish it. They're going to see it out. A lot of people are worried they're starting on a smaller one. They're starting on a Legends one at the same time, but I think they'll finish it out. Now, they did make a Hasbro Titan class one, in the Power of the Primes, and this Predicate does look pretty good. It's still mainline. It still doesn't quite have that Masterpiece-esque to it, but I like it. I like it enough that it's on my Masterpiece shelf. But one of the things, I was looking at all this stuff, and I found this Like Toys, but I never was able to find a place to order it or buy it, and I'm starting to wonder if this will ever come to fruition. This was my plan. My plan was literally to just take the Power of the Primes version, add this upgrade kit here, and have it as tall as the 20-inch combiners out there. But now I'm starting to wonder, will this ever come out, or am I just looking in the wrong spot? So I guess it's just going to be, it's a Kang's Toys for now. Maybe someone will make it later. So when it comes to Computron, this is the figure I would most want to see made next. Like, we're going to get a Defensor. We've already got so many other options for other combiners. And there is an option for this out there. Warbotron made it. It's a bit too small. They never got the KO oversized, no Jinbao oversized version of it. And even if it was, it still wouldn't be big enough to match up to the rest of those combiners at 20-inch. It'd still only be 18 or so inches. So we need one. And I'd like to see Zeta do it. But with Zeta not really making anything new, and if it comes out new, it comes with a new name, maybe Moon Studio do it. Who knows? But I like Zeta's style, and Zeta's style would work for this very well, and I like Zeta's price. So, I mean, Zeta price is actually pretty good. I could get with $100 a bot, and then maybe $150 for the main one, and that would be awesome. I'd love parts forming, and their Superion, they could use pretty much a lot of what they've already done with Superion as the parts forming parts for this, so why not? I'd love to see it. So the next one I'd be in on is an Abominus. Now, I know that there's already a Unique Toys one, which we'll talk about in a second, but I would like to see a full-on, large-scale Abominus made, partially because of these kind of monster combiners. This is my favorite of the monster type of combiners. I like this one even more than Predicate, and I think that the characters and just kind of the designs of these figures lend themselves well to make a sleek, awesome-looking combined mode bot. And I'm going to display mine in combined mode anyway, so that's pretty awesome. We know Hasbro's made one. I'm personally not a fan of what Hasbro did all around. It's not bad. I'm going to say it's not bad. First off, it's nowhere near big enough. Nobody's KO oversized it big enough. I bought a KO oversized one myself, and it's nowhere near big enough, and it's a lot floppier than I thought it'd be. But it was still kind of fun for 50 or 70 bucks or whatever it was. But at the end of the day, we need a true MP version. And Unique Toys made one, that Orion, is that what it's called? And I never got any of these. I never got any of the figures. I knew it was only going to be so big, 15 to 17, something like that. It's not big enough for this scale. Now, of course, you could cheat with it. You could prop it up in the back. You could put a couple blocks of wood or something, or some of those clear stands and stand them up high or something like that, and behind the rest of them. And because he's so bulky, he might fit in just fine. You wouldn't notice. There's some cheats you can do with the smaller ones if you want, but he's still not as big as the 20-inch or the Zeta or the Toy World. But he does look pretty good. I can't deny the fact. It looks like a good-looking figure. So, as for the Piranhacons, this is one of those that I'm not really super excited about myself personally. And I'm starting to think we may never see a true 20-inch scale version of this, because I don't think there's a lot of people out there that are excited about it. Now, you got to have the people in the third-party community making this excited about it. And I don't see them excited about it at all. I don't see any sort of interest. So this might be one that hangs out there, never getting made in the true large masterpiece scale. And you know, it's kind of sad for those that love this. Now, there's a huge following. When the Generation Selects version came out, people were going crazy for this. It was just, there was so much excitement surrounding it, and I was like, I don't understand why. It's okay. It looks pretty good, though. It looks vastly better than what they did in G1, and I think that is part of what created the excitement. If you had this in G1, which I had a couple of them, but not the whole thing, but if you had it in G1, and you see how much better they did in Generation Selects, I can't help but think, you know, how much better will it look in the true masterpiece scale? And lastly, I'm just going to throw this in just for fun, but I truly, genuinely would like to see a modern masterpiece puzzler. The all-in-one combiner from back in the day. Yes, in the Back in the day, they had a GoBots puzzler. It was an all-in-one combiner. It actually is really cool. I didn't even know they made it back in the day. I just know I was collecting some GoBots about a decade ago, and I come across a few parts of these, and I realized, oh, these combine. Oh, I could get like a couple more of them, and I've got it combined. What? I don't got to search for feet. I don't got to search for hands. I don't got to search for a head. I don't have to search for a chest plate or a waist plate. It's all there. So collecting it 30 years later was a lot of fun. So I have it, I enjoy it, and I'd like to see one in Masterpiece scale. So let me know what you think about all this fun Masterpiece Combiner stuff. What scale are you in? Are you in on this big 20-inch scale? Are you in on the smaller ones? Let me know. Like, subscribe. Titanium Hanger out.